The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
The Chicago Bears' statement win over the Philadelphia Eagles sends a message to the rest of the NFL.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast.
The story of this game for me was about the Bears' ability to run the ball. Really, it was controlling the game in both trenches, but I think even the more impressive side was just how effective the dual threat of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai were in this game. And I think this is one of those instances where when you try and separate, how well was it? Was it the running backs being great, or was it the offensive line just clearing huge holes and you or I could have rushed for 100 yards in this game? And I think this is the rare instance where it's kind of both. And that's maybe even the most encouraging part of all this. That I thought the Bears' offensive line did a great job of pushing that line of scrimmage back and giving the running backs a nice 3, 4, or 5 yards of free running to lead up to before, the linebackers and safeties were coming over there to make plays. But if it were just the offensive line clearing up a free 3 or 4 yards, then you would see the running backs average 3 or 4 yards per carry. But Kyle Monangai was just under 6 yards per carry, and DeAndre Swift was just under 7 yards per carry. They both had runs of 20-plus yards in this game. And the offensive line is not blocking everybody all the way 20 and 30 yards downfield. Like, the running backs have to create that for themselves. Like, the offensive line does the first level stuff, the running backs do the second level stuff. And this was a game where we saw great run blocking at the first level from the offensive line, and then high quality running from these backs to create extra yards from there. That, yes, the offensive line definitely greased the wheels and got them some momentum there, but then the running backs did a great job either setting up blocks downfield or making guys miss or taking advantage of the spaces there and squeezing the extra yards beyond what the offensive line was able to do. Like, this to me was both run blocking and running back ability combining for a great game. Like, I think that's what it takes when you have over 250 rushing yards combined from your two running backs. Like, that can't just be great running backs. That can't just be great offensive line. To be that special in a game like this has to be both. And I thought it was both Monangai and Swift in their own ways. Swift using that speed to break free and create extra yards in there, and Monangai being physical and bouncing off of contact and running through arm tackles and falling forward constantly. Like, they both built a really strong rushing attack that then made everyone else's job that much easier. It didn't require elite quarterbacking from Caleb Williams, and it left, I would say, even a higher margin of error for Caleb Williams. I don't think he played a bad game, but it was much more of what felt to me like a game managing type of performance from the quarterback, which is all you needed. But they weren't asking him to throw the ball downfield a bunch and generate a bunch of explosive plays with the offense. They didn't need him to. It wasn't on his shoulders, right? It wasn't like, the Bears needed Caleb Williams to step up and do a bunch, and he failed to do so. It was like, no, they just needed him to kind of take care of the ball, give the Bears a threat in the passing game, create some plays with his legs here and there. And, he threw the ball downfield a few times, including a really nice touchdown to Cole Kmet. But, this was more of Caleb as a facilitator, because you don't need to when you're rushing for 250 yards with your running backs. You're getting 6 and 7 yards per carry in the ground game. Like, you look at Caleb Williams' passing chart, like the next gen stats, dots I always like to reference after games. You can look like he only completed a couple of passes beyond 10 yards downfield. It was a lot of throwing short, throwing checkdowns, and throwing quick routes here that were definitely moving the chains, right? It wasn't necessarily like, hey, it's 3rd and long, and he's always just throwing short and praying that somebody makes a play after the catch. But then there was a lot of completions of 8 yards in the air, 7 yards in the air. There's plenty in that 5 to 10 yard range. It's not all behind the line of scrimmage, total check down Charlie, useless quarterback kind of stuff. But it was more like, hey, let's play it safe. Let's lean on this running game. Let's take care of the football, and then still take your shots downfield when you see them. And hits Cole Kmet on a great touchdown, and had a couple other impressive throws in this game. Also has the interception on the screen pass that I don't necessarily think is his fault per se. I mean, a defensive player is kind of the pass rusher Hunt is kind of obscured by an offensive lineman and then jumps out and reads the screen the whole way. It feels a little bit more like, Ben Johnson being a little too predictable with those screen passes at that point in the game. They were calling a bunch of screens. Eagles started sniffing it out, and you get an interception in that pathway. But this was, I think, such a 4 quarters dominating the line of scrimmage type of performance from this Bears offense, and really the Bears defense as well, that was most encouraging, right? Like, we've seen them have hot starts, strong finishes, and maybe they kind of lull a little bit in between, but the Bears, they didn't quite score points in every quarter, but they were driving at the end of the third quarter that bled over into the fourth quarter that they finished scoring points on. They were moving the ball well in every quarter. They were a little bit of a slow part, early in the third quarter for sure. It wasn't that every single drive was points and super successful, but consistently from start to finish, this Bears team was establishing its will at the line of scrimmage and getting what they wanted on offense. And we'll talk about the defense here in a second here, but such a well-rounded performance all along. Good pass protection. It felt like Caleb Williams had time to throw most of the time. There were a couple times when pressure gets through and he has to scramble and escape. And of course, I think he got sacked a couple of times in this game, but generally, plus pass protection and plus run blocking from the offensive line. Maybe a little bit more to be desired from Rome Odunze on a couple of those plays. There were a couple of plays where receivers fell down on routes, but you get Cole Kmet involved, you get Luther Burden involved, Colston Loveland involved. Zacchaeus has a couple catches. Despite them only completing 17 passes, they got, I think 8 or 9 different receivers involved in the passing game. It just felt so well-rounded against the best opponent the Bears have faced all season. And we can start about excuses about how the Eagles' offense has been a little bit disjointed, but their defense has been playing really well. Vic Fangio coaches a good group there. They're pretty darn healthy on that side of the ball too, especially in that defensive line that's supposed to be a strength of the Eagles. And the Bears absolutely won that up front with Ozzie Trapillo holding up, playing pretty well at left tackle as well. So it just feels like, boy, this was the kind of everything comes together performance from the Bears offense that we've been looking for. And then the defense more than did its part in a way that was even also a little bit unexpected given the injuries and everything they had to overcome on that side of the ball against a really solid quarterback in Jalen Hurts, maybe the best quarterback the Bears have seen since on this winning stretch.
NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as it unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into and locked on every drive, every snap, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
I doubted them, but the Panthers pull off yet another stunner, this time upsetting the Rams and are firmly in the playoff picture in the NFC.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast.
The Carolina Panthers 31, the Los Angeles Rams 28. Yet another Sunday where the Panthers have shocked the NFL world and made a fool out of your boy, because I, as you know, all week long and really all season long have counted the Panthers out in this week 13 matchup. I have been very upfront about how I feel about that Los Angeles Rams team and what I believe that they're going to achieve, even with this loss today, this season in the NFL. I did not think this was ever a game that Panthers fans or the Panthers, I mean, obviously they have to believe, but I didn't think this was a game that really anyone outside of these walls in Bank of America Stadium should have truly believed they had a chance to win. I understand that they beat the Packers. I'm not really loving the Packers this season. Obviously a big win for Carolina. I just felt like this was a different kind of weight class they were stepping into as the one they faced against New England and against Buffalo early on this season. The Panthers have proven that they can beat a Cowboys team that's since been resurgent, that they can beat a Packers team. I just didn't think they could beat this team, this level of an opponent, even if it was at home on a dreary, cold, damp Sunday afternoon in uptown Charlotte. I didn't see this coming. I had zero belief, and I'll put my hand up that I was flat out wrong because they did it. And of course, I did say, oh, well, it's any given Sunday and all that. I didn't believe that. That's just the stuff you just say just to kind of, cover your own ass, even though I knew that as soon as they won this game, I was going to hear from y'all that said, hey, Julian, you gave them no chance. But what did they do? They won. So, yeah, they shut me up. They made a fool out of me. I guess I made a fool out of myself. But what a win. What a damn win for this organization, for Dave Canales yet again, for Bryce Young. It's the best win of the Tepper era since the one that happened a month ago when they went on the road to Lambeau Field and upset the Packers. But this one now puts you at 7-6 heading into the bye. This one now has you with 4 games left, needing really just 3 wins, and 3 in particular wins in the division that will have you playing a home playoff game for the first time since the 2015 season in January of 2016. The first time in a decade that will have happened here in Carolina. And this team is on the precipice of doing that. They still have to go over the top. They still have to close because they have not been able to achieve success like beating the Packers and then go and take care of business like the Saints, who they're going to see in 2 weeks' time, that they should beat. It's handling success after you've had these bounce back moments. That's the next step for this Panthers team. And we'll see if they can achieve that here in 2025. Your guess is as good as mine as far as who the Panthers are. I know that they're resilient. I know that they can bounce back. Just how good they are, I don't know. I don't think it really matters because clearly they're a good enough football team to where they're playing meaningful December football. I saw Robert Mays of The Athletic tweet this out earlier today saying the Panthers lost to the Saints. They have 2 losses of 25-plus points, scored 13 or fewer points in 6 games, had a 30-0 blowout win, and now have wins over the Packers and Rams. Who is this team? I have no idea. These are the same Rams that they played today and beat that had not trailed since the first quarter of the game that the Rams played against the Ravens back on October 12th. It had been a month and a half since the Rams had trailed, let alone lost a football game, just straight up trailed. So you could understand why maybe I didn't have a ton of confidence heading into this game. I was walking over to here today. I'm like, man, they're going to go play the Rams. They're probably going to get blown out. Guys aren't really have to say anything in the locker room. But I already had my message prepared. I was going to say to y'all that, it's okay. They lost that game. I already told you on Friday. It don't matter. Just take care of Tampa, New Orleans. Possibly you need to take care of Seattle. But if Tampa slips up one time, all you got to do is just sweep the rest of the division games, and you're hosting a playoff game at 9-8. That was going to be my message. That's what I expected to talk about here on the show. But instead, we're talking about a massive victory for this team. And we're also talking about Dave Canales finally not coaching scared. It's confounding that the same guy who can craft a game plan like they had against Atlanta, where Bryce Young throws for 448 yards, then can turn around and do what they did on Monday night, where they ran the ball 9 times. They tried to pass it. It did not work. And it just did not look like the same aggressiveness that you felt like they needed to have and had in the past. And then today, multiple times on 4th down, he decided, let's just go for it all, man. Let's not play scary. Let's not just try to run it. Let's not try to just dink and dunk and get those 3-2 yards. Let's try to go for the jugular against a team that is damn good in LA. I think back to the 3rd quarter, Bryce Young on 4th and 3. He drops back after a 3rd down and 4 call that people did not like. There were boos raining down here in the stadium. Folks did not like running the ball to Chuba Hubbard there for that 1-yard run. On 4th and 3, what does Dave dial up? Bryce drops back down that right sideline, drops it in a bucket to Jalen Coker, who drags his defender into the end zone to put the Panthers back up on top. One of the best throws we have ever seen Bryce Young throw in a Panthers uniform. And the biggest catch, certainly, well, one of, because we saw later one, a bigger catch that Jalen Coker's had in a Panthers uniform as well in his 2+ seasons. There was 1+ season, 2nd season here in Carolina. Later on, it's 4th and 2. Yet another 3rd down run. Dave decides, let's go for it. And maybe on that play, there could have been something they're looking for underneath, but Bryce found Terrell McMillan, who had snuck past his defender, Emmanuel Forbes, threw it down the sideline as well, wide open, touchdown Carolina. How often have we seen this year on those fourth down calls, they're just looking to be sneaky, get something, and only get about 3, 4, 5 yards. That's all they need. How often have we seen them take shots down the field on a first down, on a second down, let alone on a 4th and 2 and a 4th and 3? I give Dave a lot of credit. And he said that those third down runs that people may not have liked actually set them up to be aggressive in those moments. He also said who you play matters. And knowing that it's the Rams, they're 9-2, they have not trailed in a month and a half, we got to be aggressive. And they were aggressive on 4th and 2. Bryce Young, give him a ton of credit as well. 15 of 20, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. He now has 5 game-winning drives this season and 11 game-winning drives since he entered into the league. That's more than Patrick Mahomes, who has 10, more than Josh Allen, who has 9, and also more than Jalen Hurts, who maybe I shouldn't put them in the category as Mahomes and Allen, but he also has 9. That's what Bryce has been able to do. So when you needed him to be clutch, for the lack of a better word, if there's a better word at all, he's gone out there and made the throws. And damn it, did he make those throws today when it comes to the McMillan throw, the Coker throw for the touchdown, finding Coker at the end of the game over the middle for that first down to salt the game away right as the 2-minute warning was going on the clock. The guy bounced back again. I don't have any answers. When you ask me after Atlanta whether he should get the 5th-year option, I don't know. Let's wait for the season to end. When you ask me after San Francisco whether he should get the 5th-year option, I don't know. Let's wait for the season to end. My answer after today still, I don't know. Let's see how these next 4 games go. Because if Bryce is a catalyst to them going to the playoffs, kind of a simple decision. If Bryce is the reason they don't make the playoffs, maybe an easy decision as well. But I'm not worried about it. Dude played his ass off, bounced back. What a game from him. And in Cokeheads, where you at? Your boy went out there, had a huge day, 4 receptions, 74 yards, that touchdown on that 4th and 3. That was a dime from Bryce Young. Dave Canales said after the game, it was nice to get Jalen 4 receptions, but we got to get him the ball more. Yeah, you sure do. If he's going to make the kind of plays that he made today on 3rd downs, on 4th downs, on you get this, the game is over. Great day for Jalen Coker. And then the running back rotation. Sneakily, over the last couple of weeks against Atlanta, and especially on Monday, even if they did not get a lot of rushes, Dave Canales has reincorporated a running back rotation. But this time, it makes sense. It's not clunky. It's not lacking rhythm like we saw those 2 weeks when it was, hey, Rico, you get this series. Hey, Chuba, you get this series. It didn't make any sense. It wasn't, all right, you're tired, let me put you in. Okay, it's 3rd down, let me put you in this package. It wasn't, oh, let's put both of you guys out there on a 4th down and then throw the ball down the field. Like, he wasn't doing that, but he did that today. And we have constantly asked Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, Dave Canales how they feel about it. And Rico constantly said it will make both of us better for both of us to be out there, that they wanted to hopefully get to a point where both Rico and Chuba could have the day that they had today, and it finally happened. And Dave admitted after Monday that he did not do a good job getting these guys the ball. 9 total carries for 54 yards at 6 yards per carry on Monday night. On the opening drive of the game, Chuba Hubbard had 50 yards of the 69 yards Carolina had on an opening touchdown drive. 6 rushing attempts for the running backs on that opening drive after only having 9 on Monday. And then looking at their numbers, Chuba, 17 attempts, 83 yards, 4.9 yards per attempt, 2 receptions, 41 yards, and a touchdown, which was a beautifully schemed up play by Dave Canales on that 35-yard throw out to the flat and catch and run by Chuba. Rico, 18 attempts, 58 yards, 3.2 yards per attempt, 2 receptions, 21 yards, combined 35 attempts, 141 yards, 4 yards per rush for both those guys, 4 receptions, 62 yards, a touchdown. This is what it can look like. This is what you want it to look like. You don't want to just ride one guy. Of course, if he's the hot hand, then do it. But you would prefer to have Rico and Chuba both fresh, both getting this amount of carries and having this amount of success out of the backfield receiving and, of course, running the ball in between and outside the tackles, which they did today. And none of this is possible without the offensive line here in Carolina this season. For the 10th time this season, they started a different offensive line combination. 10 out of 13 games. Ike Ekwonu at left, Damian Lewis at left guard, at center, Austin Corbett, at right guard, Jay Kurhan, and then at right tackle, Taylor Moton. And the standard has not dropped off at all. They have played to that standard. It's been next guy up. And the relationship those guys have is so tight, that bond. And I asked Austin Corbett about it, man. And he couldn't shy away from just how special this group has been, that they have been able to play to a certain standard. So you're not 7-6. You're not having two running backs play that well. You're not having a quarterback make those kind of throws on fourth down without the offensive line playing to that standard and not falling off a cliff like we have seen in the past here in Carolina. So I gave those guys a ton of credit for the Panthers getting this 31-28 win at home against the LA Rams, a game I gave them no chance at winning. And of course, I was wrong, and hell, I'll be glad to be wrong when they come out there and get these kind of big wins and firmly cement their place in the NFC playoff race the rest of the year. And hell, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but when you beat the Packers, you beat the Rams, maybe you can dare to dream a little bit more, but you got to get to the dance first. And they're right there on the cusp of doing so, heading into the bye week with 4 games left here in 2025.
NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as it unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into and locked on every drive, every snap, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
Houston continues their win streak with the return of C.J. Stroud.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans.
In the return of C.J. Stroud, Stroud goes out there and he has himself a decent day. First snap since taking on Denver a few weeks back. C.J. Stroud goes out there and has nearly 300 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, did get sacked twice. Both of those sacks, I think, from the eye test, and when we go back and rewatch the game, we can attribute at least one of those sacks on C.J. Stroud. One of them, I think that was Ed Ingram, just got beat by Grover Stewart there. So still a very good offensive line performance. Woody Marks, 19 carries, 64 yards, 3.4 yards per carry. Not sexy at all, but he did have a couple of good runs late in the game to help Houston secure the win. Nick Chubb, 9 carries, for 34 yards, 3.8 yards per catch. And he had a score on the ground. Nico Collins had a score on the ground. Nico almost had 100 yards, 98 yards on 5 catches, 10 targets. He had a good day. And for Jaden Higgins, his best yards in the game this year, 65. But it wasn't an ugly win for the Houston Texans. They were, I guess, respectable on third downs today. 6 of 13, 0-2 on fourth down for the Houston Texans. They got back to doing some of those ugly things, penalties, non-penalties, 85 yards due to the penalties. And again, I mentioned the 1 turnover, but some of the things that the Texans did well. Obviously, when we look at it not being a pretty game, what happens? What's the factors of going into a game that you win, but it's ugly? Well, when you're able to control the time of possession, 35-25, and for the Houston Texans offense, they had 3 drives of 12 or more yards. I'm sorry, 12 or more plays, 6 minutes, 13 plays, 3 points. 8 minutes, 14 plays, 3 points. 5 minutes, 12 plays, 7 points. So when we look at the Houston Texans scoring 20 points on a day, just enough to beat the Colts, 13 of those points came on drives where 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. That alone, 19 of the 35 minutes where the Houston Texans had their possession. I think that was important today. And we'll get into the underrated defensive performance. Obviously, we look at the time of possession, What does that mean for the Houston Texans being able to fend off Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones, who all things considered had a decent day? Also for the Houston Texans, what I thought was very important in an ugly game, this game is a game of inches. We know that simply because even if we look at some of the 0-2 fourth down stop and the Houston Texans opting to go with the tush push with Cade Stover, a couple of times it worked, game of inches. A couple of times it didn't work, game of inches. But for the Texans, they had 10 plays, passing plays of 10 or more yards. I thought that when we look at the difference in between a Davis Mills-led offense and a C.J. Stroud-led offense, it's the trust and also just the pure ability to push the ball downfield consistently. They had a couple of 20-yard conversions, a couple of 15-yard conversions, but again, 10 plays of 10 or more passing yards for the Houston Texans. Not a lot of behind the receiver passes today. Gave guys the ability to catch the ball in stride and get up the field. Of C.J. Stroud's 276 passing yards on the day, 110 came from yak yards. And so that's just important for a team that doesn't necessarily get those opportunities consistently. Sauce Gardner went down. They wanted to attack the Colts secondary, and at time they did a good job of that. Obviously, we saw that when your first game back, you get nearly 300 passing yards. But I just thought that Jaden Higgins, who did a good job with his opportunities today, Xavier Hutchinson, he is never probably going to be a player that you can bank on getting 60 or more yards in a game. But Xavier Hutchinson has done a good job this year when he gets his opportunities to catch the ball and just simply get upfield. That's a trend that continued for the Houston Texans. And then obviously Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, what they were able to do for the Texans offense underneath and over the top at times. I thought that's what helped an ugly win look a little bit more attractive. What did you guys, the playmakers, the X factors, what did y'all do to help us get down to that win? And when I look across the board, getting to the end zone 5 times, coming away with 2 touchdowns, that continues to be frustrating. But how did they do it? They did it on the ground. Getting down there to the red zone, I think there's been improvements from the offensive line, and I think this offensive line, as it's currently put together, is a better passing offensive line than run blocking. But between 25 and 25 for the Houston Texans, offensively, they are able to move the ball. It's once they get inside the 20 and that field shrinks, it becomes chaos and it becomes confusion consistently throughout the year. So they was able to punch it in twice, just enough to beat the Indianapolis Colts. What I had a major issue with in terms of this win not being pretty and this win being ugly, and I'm not here to nitpick, but that 2-minute drill going into halftime where the Houston Texans come away with no points, 2 minutes, 2 timeouts, and I thought that they did a poor job of executing in terms of urgency. There was a lack of urgency and playing against the clock. Now, if you want to limit the Colts to having the ball back, I understand that. But my counterpoint to that would be, Houston, you have shown issues with scoring all year. So you can't play the game to hold off the Colts. I don't think so, considering the defense Houston has. The Texans offense, from Nick Caley on down to whoever else is a part of that offensive coaching staff, they got to play the game to help themselves out. And I thought in that 2-minute drill, they failed to do that. I thought that when they got down there and they the cased over tush push on that 4th down, really on the 3rd down as well, but to that point, it had worked. So on the 3rd down, I can justify it. When they got to that 4th down tush push with cased over, I thought to myself, take a moment and put the ball back in your best player's hand to that point. And that was C.J. Stroud, who found himself having a great rhythm on that drive. You just want to see him continue to stay in rhythm, work the pocket, and just make the plays. He's a quarterback of the future. He's a franchise quarterback. So don't take the ball away from him in those moments where it feels like he is rolling. But overall, again, like I said, ugly win, but it was a win nonetheless. There's plenty of things that we can probably nitpick one thing that, again, when we talk about this Houston Texans team, winner of their last 4, what has happened? The defense has taken away what that team, the opposing offense, has done well.